Hey, good afternoon, everybody. It's Graham Coath with another My Music. In a second, I'm going to be speaking to Gia from the Skydiving Penguins. Now, there's a name for you. And the first question that I'm going to ask is where on earth did that name come from? First, I just want to play this.
I need to get going, mate. I'll see you later.
So, Gia, thanks so much for joining me today for this interview. Where are you coming from, by the way?
I'm from Georgia, ex-Soviet Union.
Right. Yeah. That's a very different culture and landscape from here in southwest Britain.
Yes.
Very different indeed. Although at the moment, I'd hasten to say that the temperature's probably the same. I mean, what's the temperature like there for you?
Today was, I think, 5 Celsius.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's a little bit warmer here, but pretty miserable all the same. So tell me, before we get started in your history in music, why the Skydiving Penguins? Why the name?
I'm not sure. I don't exactly remember how it started. I think it was Mark and I were talking. He was telling me a story about British Army going to Falkland Islands and during the war with Argentina. And the penguins were looking at the planes flying, and they were dropping down on their backs. The soldiers were trying to help and to get them up, and that was fascinating. So we were laughing, and I think from that it started.
That's really quite an interesting little story. Yeah. So these penguins were fascinated by what was going on above them.
Yeah.
And started falling on their back.
Yes, falling on the back, and I think that was the beginning. I don't quite remember, but I think that was the story behind it.
Yeah, but it seems to have taken a life of its own now in what you're doing, because you know, in some of the artwork, etc., you have people dressed up as penguins. Yes. So you know, do you feel kind of the penguins allow you in a way to almost like with bands like Gorillaz to kind of hide behind a facade of penguins?
Not really, no.
No. You don't feel like you embody penguins at all?
No, not really, no.
No. Okay, fine. So tell me now, where did music start for you?
So when I was about 10, 11 years old, and I was born and I was growing up in Soviet Georgia, and we were privileged because we had musical programs once in a week or once in a month. I can't remember now, and they used to play lots of Western music, and that's where I found the Beatles, really, and they also played lots of good stuff. First time I remember watching Sweet,
yeah.
Ballroom Blitz.
Yeah.
It blew my mind. I couldn't believe it that this could have, this kind of music could have existed.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff they played, and the how story started is that a friend of mine who was also my neighbor, his sister got married, and the new brother-in-law brought a reel-to-reel player.
Wow.
And we started listening to the early Beatles, and we were listening over and over. Like every day we used to go there and we sit down, lay down on the floor and I listened. I can still remember the moments, the how it all looked like a
Yeah.
room, and
It was a very sensual experience. You can kind of
yes,
almost go back there when you listen to the music as well. Yeah.
yes. And one day we decided to change the tape, and we put the tape on, and it started with a airplane noise, and it was still the Beatles, but it was like matured Beatles, like a different kind of sound.
Yeah.
So it was the White Album,
Yeah.
and I had a strange feeling that it was very familiar for me, even though I was listening very first time. I
Mm.
still remember that feeling. So I had this strange feeling, and I fall in love with the White Album and stuff. So just maybe 5 years ago, we had a family gathering, like dinner and stuff like that. And my sister was telling the story that when my mother was pregnant with me, they used to play White Album non-stop at home. And
Oh,
then
really?
when I was born, they will keep playing it.
Wow.
And she says that I used to go to sleep on the Julia, on the last track of the first first side of the first disc, and then I realized
That's why
why
you
was
knew it.
yeah. Then I realized it was so familiar for me. And even now, if you listen to my album that we released, it's eclectic, and it's eclecticism comes from the White Album because it's the most eclectic album.
It very much is. It very
Beatles,
much
yes.
is. I mean, it's been very nice in some of the reviews that I've seen of your album. People have mentioned the Beatles as a reference point, which I mean must be for you must be tremendous. I mean, it's
Oh yeah,
for me what it is, and actually when I played it to my business partner who I work with during the day, she said, "Oh yeah, I can hear Beatles in that. I can hear a little bit, in harmonies, Beach Boys in that as well." But I said, "But it's also it's very modern at the same time." And
thank you.
and there's definitely sort of a very modern and very edgy tone to it, undertone to it as well. Do you feel that's a fair representation?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Uh, I mean, the Beatles is in my DNA because I've been
Literally.
I told you the story. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I was making this record, I thought it was the least Beatlesque music that I was recording, but
Yeah.
it comes out that everyone who listens to it says that it's very Beatlesque.
Yeah. But maybe that's just because you've captured an essence as opposed to
Maybe,
actually
yeah,
you're copying. Yeah. Which is
yeah.
good. What are the themes that you write about? What sort of things do you actually write about in your music?
What inspires me, yeah.
Mm.
Uh, lot of things, lot of things. It could be uh, uh, from the album. There's a track that a friend of mine inspired me, who got depressed and went to monastery. Then books, really, good books inspired me a lot. Good movies, um, good music inspires me. I mean, I'm not trying to copy really, but it could just inspire me. I can listen to the good music, and I get so inspired. I might go and write music, but it's going to be completely different. But there's inspiration definitely come
So
from.
inspiration comes from everywhere.
Yeah.
Where did you meet your other penguins, as it
Um,
were? Where,
there are no other penguins, to be honest.
right.
Uh, I'm writing and recording myself
Okay.
by myself. Um, uh, it's just with a little help from of my friends that they helped me uh, the friend of mine recorded the album in his bedroom, and the other friend who passed away a couple of years ago, he produced it. Uh,
Sorry to
there
hear
are some
that.
other friends, yeah, they just played, you know, guitar or trumpet or stuff like that.
Yeah. Well,
But
it's good. It's good to have those friends. It's good to have friends that are passing through that can add a little bit onto the top of things as well, isn't it? So,
yeah, it's more
is there
interesting,
much of
isn't
a
it?
is there much of a music scene where you are?
Yeah, we have a good couple of good bands here. Uh, most of them we're all friends and stuff. We play on each other's tracks and we hang out together.
Oh, so
Yeah, good
there is
scene,
quite
good
a
bands.
community. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
quite a
good community, good community.
no, that's brilliant. So after you were born into the
Yeah,
Beatles, as it were, and it absorbed into your DNA
yes.
along the road into starting to make music. When did you first decide you were going to start making music for yourself?
When I was growing up, we had grand piano at home.
Right.
Yeah, so my neighbor used to go to music school, and he used to practice at home all the time. So by ear, I was copying him, and then also I used to play some pop stuff, melody stuff. But then later on, I just my sister bought me a guitar because I really wanted to play guitar. My
Right.
sister bought me a guitar, and
What was your sister doing to be able to afford to buy you a guitar? Because
no, it was
that's unusual.
yeah. She was studying at that time in the university,
Right.
and she bought me cheap Soviet acoustic guitar. She
It's
could
like
she couldn't afford it.
a birthday present or something like that, was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
And it started from there because I didn't have a guitar teacher, so we had to go and oh, this guy knows some chords. We used to go to his. People those days used to sit on the streets and in a yards, in the front yards, and play guitars. We used to go there and sit down and check. Oh, look, what kind of chord is that? Is it E something, like E7? So
Yeah.
then we come back and we play E7. And also I remember some friend of mine. So we got friends after that. He knew how to play Blackbird, beginning of
Right.
the song Blackbird. So he showed me that, and then we become friends. And it started from there, just little by little, like
I
piece.
love that as an idea. I just love. I mean, you almost think it wouldn't happen today, but that whole kind of idea that you sort of sidle up alongside people in a community type setting, and someone just shares a little bit of their knowledge and what they know, and then that develops into a friendship.
Yes,
Almost today people will be kind of too wary to do that. But I know exactly what you mean, because I remember when I was young, hanging out with people that were 10 years older than me. Now, again, mums and dads wouldn't allow that to happen these days.
yeah,
Um,
definitely.
but but it was brilliant. I can remember this guy teaching me a bit of Stairway to Heaven, and I was like, I was 10 or 11, and allowed me to play their guitar for a little bit. It's a really lovely way to bond with people, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and we had friends like 5 or 10 years older than us. We used to play guitars. We used to play football together,
Yeah.
and they were better than us. So we were learning from them
Yeah.
some technical tricks to do, like Brazilian style.
Wow. No, fantastic. So what was the first sort of music you bought yourself?
Well, first music what I bought.
Mm.
Uh, we didn't have much in the stores in Soviet time. In stores, we didn't have music stores, but we had this tiny places that people like people used to have the huge reel-to-reel players, and from the reel-to-reel players, they were taping on a cassette, and they were selling these cassettes.
All right. Yeah.
So that was when I first time when I bought all Beatles records, and then later on, I found vinyls and stuff like that. So I was buying vinyls.
Right. Outside of the Beatles, what other sort of things were you starting to buy once you bought vinyl?
Nirvana. I think the first,
All right.
yeah, Nirvana was the first. Yeah, uh, Nevermind was the first album I think what I bought.
Yeah. Well, because again, you can hear a little bit of the kind of grunge scene in your music. It's not obvious,
Yeah.
but I think in terms of some of the attitude, it's there. Was it something about the attitude of that music, the honesty of that music that perhaps appealed to you?
Definitely. Nirvana is my favorite band. I'm a huge fan of Nirvana. I mean,
Okay.
it's the Beatles and then Nirvana.
Yeah. And what is it about? Is it Kurt's songwriting that appealed to you?
Songwriting and attitude and everything, the honesty, and I grew up with them. It's very very personal for me. I mean, I take it as my music because it was so honest, and it was also like everybody's got their teenage music, right?
Mm.
So I think the Nirvana was mine. So I grew up with them, even though the Beatles were in my DNA. Kurt Cobain used to be a huge Beatles fan, but
Yeah.
he didn't.
I think anything you grow up with when you're in your teenage years has a very, very special place to you. Partly because for some reason, maybe it's a time thing, but I think you actually have more time to listen to it at that time, and therefore you learn every single word of every single track, etc. Nowadays I struggle to learn 5 words that someone's singing on the track because of and I kind of blame it on the fact that I'm getting old, but I think maybe it's actually the fact that I just don't spend long enough investing in it. Yeah. So in terms of when you started writing this album, when did you first start putting together the songs for this? So it was actually quite a long time ago.
Oh, yes. I don't remember how I started. I think I was too scared to start by myself. So I had a band with my mates, and we used to write songs together. But then again, it's for me. It became difficult to do with other guys because I had to. I mean, how to say it? How to say it right? Uh, because they want it their way, I want it my way. So it's the arguments and stuff. We weren't really Lennon McCartney partnership, but we wrote a couple of good songs, but then we decided to go separately. And after that, I felt comfortable just writing songs by myself without 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 any partnership.
Yeah.
So
What would you like other people to take away from what you've written? What would you like the impact of this music to be?
I never thought of that. I don't know. Uh, maybe the I mean, why people write music to be honest music, right? You feel this way honestly, and you write it. And if somebody uh, feels the same, and this feeling associates with them, so that's cool with me.
Yeah. And that have you felt that? Because I certainly see it on social media, but have you felt that from the response that you've got already to this album from people out there? Because there's a lot of people actually giving you a lot of love back for this album. So you've obviously
Yeah,
found people that feel the same way.
mostly musicians, I think.
But that does that matter?
No, no, it's
No.
cool. I think I like it.
Yeah. In some ways, actually, if you can win over musicians, that's a compliment. That
Yeah,
means that you've
very
done
much.
a you've done a good job. And actually, they're sometimes musicians are the fussiest listeners as well, because you know they don't listen to music necessarily in quite the same way as other people. I think a lot of us are frustrated musicians, and therefore, we kind of read music in that kind of musician type way. But you're actually out there doing it. I think that's great. If you're getting a good response from musicians, I think that tells you that there's a quality in what you're doing. But ultimately, it's for you, it's about producing something you're happy with. And you very happy with this album?
Yes, I'm very happy.
Good.
Even though it's a DIY and it's not hi-fi, it's lo-fi actually, but it meant to be this way. It was recorded in a bedroom studio with a um, not very good equipment. I mean, we had very cheap microphone and sound cards and everything, but the the guys have a good ear, and it's all about taste and stuff. So it's lo-fi, but it sounds good.
Yeah, it's lo-fi, but it's quality. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's down to the quality of the songs. And I have to applaud you for the quality of the songwriting on this album.
Thank
Do,
you.
do, you- do, you- do you feel that you've managed to live up to your early days of listening to the Beatles? Is there a McCartney or Lennon in you somewhere? Do you feel?
I think the four of them. I can
All four of them.
when I listen to the album, I have it in my car. Uh, Sometimes I find the bits of Lennon or some McCartney. It's not very obvious. It's very personal thing to find it, some flavors of McCartney, Lennon, even Harrison, and some Ringo's drum fills in it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
all
yeah.
in there for me. I don't know if other people see it, but it's all in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I always fascinated by the stories of Ringo's drum fills, because so much of it happened because of the fact that he was left-handed,
Yes,
and because of the way he played the drums. It was kind of accident, but it made it sound so
unique.
obvious. Yeah, unique, absolutely. And that's absolutely brilliant. Like the beginning of Come Together, that kind of um, feel right at the beginning of that. You just think that nobody else would drum like that, so nobody else would make that up and put that in there. So if you have an ambition for this album, what would it be,
Ooh,
other
that's
than
hard.
lots of people to listen to it?
Yes, yeah, yeah. To get out there, and I don't know. I'm not into that. Oh, let's make money, millions and stuff. I just wanted to be heard, and it's very difficult nowadays to be heard because lot of crappy music on TV. I can't watch music on TV. MTV days are over, and it's all internet music, and there's so much in there, and so difficult to get out there. But my goal is to people to listen to music.
Yeah, And I think there's a hunger for that at the moment. I generally do, because I think what you're saying is right. It to some extent, it's always been the case that popular music, there's always been a blandness in real pop end of music, but more so than ever, perhaps there's so much music out there, and actually a lot of what gets curated for us at the moment is so the same. So, you know, that's why it's important to do things like this. I believe, you know, that's one of the reasons why I started this. Is it's so important when people say to me, which they do, there's no good new music out there these days. It just makes me cringe, because there's so much good music out there, but people just don't know necessarily where to find it. Do you believe that's true yourself?
Yeah, it's true, definitely. I found 2 or 3 weeks ago the project. I think it's a one-man band, Novelty Island. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it, because it was so good. But there are good musicians. There people still writing good songs, but it's difficult to find them.
Absolutely. And I'm always pleased when I see you pop up on social media, or the Penguins popping up on social media, because you're always championing someone else's music. Everybody's always, it's always a comment on someone else's album or someone else's, you know, post saying this is brilliant, which is great. I mean, that's a refreshing approach from someone as well, which is, you know, and I'm seeing that a lot with some really great musicians on social media at the moment that are the DIY bands that are coming up through. Everybody is supporting each other, which is really, really nice. And actually, you know, it's not just about pushing themselves all the time. People are genuinely looking around and saying, oh, do you know what? That's brilliant as well. You really should be listening to that. Do you kind of feel that from social media platforms like Twitter?
Yeah, actually, the Mark doing Twitter all the time. But yeah, it's necessary to support each other nowadays. I mean, it's a good thing to do.
Yeah, you mentioned Mark, your manager, who's actually listening in the background. How briefly before we go, how did you meet Mark?
Oh, Mark, how did we meet? In Moscow, I think. Yeah, in Moscow. Straight away, we become friends.
Cool.
Because he's a avid music lover, and we will start talking about Manchester scene and stuff like that. In same evening, we just become friends.
It was just
away.
Talking over music, the
Yeah,
odd beer, and that was it. You couldn't get rid of him after that.
yeah, that's it.
You've not separated since. Oh, that's
No.
fantastic. I mean, you know, when you meet people like that through music, that's always a wonderful thing. Gear, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for sharing something about your music. I wish you all the best with the album. It's the best place for people to get it on. I know if they follow you on social media, you've got a little link tree, and that takes them through to all of the places where they can get it. But is there a place that you prefer them to go for that? Your website, for instance, which I think is a great little site.
Our website, yeah.
Yeah. And just so people know, there's various versions available. There's a download version, which is around about the £3 mark, and there's also a CD version, which is really rather nice, and has some wonderful prints in there as well, and looks like a little album on vinyl, but it's a CD. Was that your idea or was that Mark's?
I think it was Mark's idea, but I wanted the vinyl. When I was recording, I had vinyl in my mind. So Mark found the place.
Yeah. No, I think it looks tremendous. And it again takes you back. It's almost like you know, something on Apple Records, isn't it? takes you back to the Beatles days. So I think you've done a marvelous job of putting all of that together. I look forward to hearing more music from you in the future. Thanks so much for coming and speaking to me today.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Thank you.
It was my pleasure.